Things off here. We are going to record this just to give everybody a heads up, and we will send out a recording after this. So Ange, I think I see the recording going. Great, we'll get started. So good morning to everybody. Thank you for joining HESCO Services to learn a little more about the Integrated Service Agreements, ISAs is what we'll call them moving forward. My name is Chad DePasquale. I'm the Vice President of Services here at HESCO. I'm joined by Shelby Akers, who is our services specialist for all things Rockwell. Our goal today is to introduce you to the ISA, but speak more to how this all-encompassing support agreement can help minimize risk of your complex Rockwell systems, which will ultimately lead to more uptime and better asset management. Let's start with what we see as the largest challenges for our manufacturing customers today and in the near future. So first is, the silver tsunami, the brain drain. It's just that shortage of skilled, trained people. And there's a difference between what workers know how to do and what employers need. And it's now necessary to access the right knowledge at the right level at the right time. The numbers thrown around, I think by 2025, is that 3.4 million manufacturing jobs are likely to be needed here in the US, but 2 million of those jobs are expected to go unfilled, which presents a big challenge for our customers and manufacturing in general. And I dug into a little more local information and statistics for Connecticut, and the chief manufacturing officer for the state estimates we will need 6,000 to 8,000 additional skilled workers a year for the foreseeable future. And that's to replace workers who have retired and to handle the expected growth in manufacturing. Combine that with, the net migration, out migration of people from the state. That's people moving out more often than they're moving in. And that creates a very large problem to find skilled workers for open manufacturing positions here in Connecticut. With the ISA, the Integrated Service Agreement, we can plug some of those labor gaps for you and become an extension of your maintenance and support team. Installed base is a term we'll be using in this presentation, and all it means is your current Rockwell hardware installed at your facility. What we find is that since this hardware is so robust and industrialized, it lasts for years. That's great when calculating return on investment, but can lead to our customers relying on legacy hardware to keep their processes running. When that 20-year-old PLC eventually fails, our customers are scrambling to find a spare because it hasn't been manufactured for years. When they realize that either A, spares are no longer made, or B, if they are made, prices have gone up significantly, things start to go sideways quickly. Select ISAs come with what's called an installed base evaluation, or IBE. This IBE sends service techs on site to catalog all your control hardware and then sends it back to Rockwell for organization and analysis. Once an IBE is completed, you will have a comprehensive view of your plant floor and gain insight into which assets, be it by location, by line, by machine, or even control panel, are putting your operation at risk due to obsolescence or lack of critical spares. This is probably my favorite slide here in the group, and the reason is Rockwell studied the time to recovery of a typical downtime event with their automation hardware. What they found was 76% of total time spent on recovering from a downtime event was dedicated to non-recovery activities. So said another way, once the issue was diagnosed, I should say discovered, diagnosed, and resources were found to fix the problem, it only took 24% of the time to actually fix the issue. To put that into a context of time, if you have a downtime event that lasts 4 hours, 3 hours of that time is taken up with figuring out what is wrong, and only 1 hour to actually fix the problem. So this really speaks to how long it takes to find out what is wrong with your system and then find the appropriate resources to fix the issue. With the ISA, that 76% is reduced significantly because you have 24/7 access to tech support who can immediately start troubleshooting and dispatch an engineer to site if required. And finally, when a part does fail, is your plan to buy new or remanufacture that part? If you're not utilizing remanufacturing services, you're leaving money on the table. Reman can be up to 50% more cost effective than buying new. And in some cases, we offer a better warranty on a reman piece of hardware compared to buying it new. There are some reman programs where we give a 2-year warranty on that part instead of buying new, which comes with that 1-year warranty. But the caveat is to make sure Rockwell is remanufacturing your Rockwell hardware, because we're seeing premature failure rates from those other companies. I won't name names, but the biggest problem we see with those other people is that they only repair the tiny little part internally that's failed and neglect to completely refurbish the whole unit. It's like replacing one battery out of the 2 in your remote control when it stops working. The remote will start to work again with 1 new battery, but not for long, and it'll eventually fail again sooner than had both batteries been replaced. With Rockwell, we replace both batteries and completely remanufacture the hardware with OEM products. The other people can't do that. They don't have access to those parts. To OEM specifications, again, the other people can't do that, so that your part will last longer. And all ISAs have a component of remanufacturing services included, from drawing down of a yearly repair bank to fully covering any failed hardware and guaranteeing its delivery next business day. Before we jump into the ISA entitlements, I wanted to quickly talk about the structure of the support agreement to illustrate how easy it is to use and some of the financial benefits that can be realized by using this agreement. The ISA contains multiple services, from tech support to field labor to preventative maintenance to remanufacturing and much more. All of these support services are accessed by one dedicated phone number for you to call. When anything goes wrong, all you have to do is dial that one phone number dedicated to ISA customers, and Rockwell will take care of the rest. And that's kind of why I call it the easy button, as there's just one number to call to fix all of your issues. So we recognized there were many popular services used within the same customer, but they all required these separate contracts, separate orders we had to do. What was created was a new contract that integrated all these popular services called the Integrated Service Contract, the ISA. Because we can now bundle multiple services under one contract, we are able to pass along savings through the ISA compared to buying separate comparable individual service contracts. We also help save transactionally, as we only need one purchase order to cover the multiple service offerings included in the ISA. While we're on the topic of money, the ISA is one of the only contracts that is billed monthly compared to being billed up front. And Rockwell did this intentionally to help our customers create a more manageable and predictable budget to run and maintain their equipment. With contracts from 1 to 5 years in length, our customers like the ability to pay a smaller, flat monthly fee to take care of all their Rockwell installed base and transform what would traditionally be a capital expense of maintaining equipment to an operating expense. So let's jump into the nuts and bolts of the ISA and the entitlements to review the 3 support tiers and look at what entitlements come with each level. And if there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand, shoot them into the chat, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end as well. So the first tier, this is the base tier, and it's called the Essential level. It contains 3 entitlements that you will see carry through to the other 2 levels. Those entitlements are 24/7 by 365 remote system level support. And this means you can call anytime when an issue arises, and a team of seasoned technical support staff at Rockwell will be on call to assist you. There is an annual repair agreement, and that travels through all the different tiers, but at this level, it consists of a bank of funds you designate for the remanufacturing of your hardware. Whatever you populate into this repair bank, Rockwell will boost the funds by 20%. So this means if you designate, let's say $10,000 a year for repairs, that's kind of your typical spend, Rockwell will give you $12,000 in your bank to use. One important thing to point out here is that if you have a piece of hardware that fails and you call up to remanufacture it, if Rockwell has one of them in their exchange hub, you will be sent out that replacement part via next day air and only be charged the repair price. So your typical repair turnaround time is 3 or 4 weeks after Rockwell receives the part. But now if they have it in the exchange hub, you get that next day. Rockwell also recognizes you may not draw down your funds fully in a given year. So that's why you can roll over 50% of your unused funds in this repair bank to the next year. You also get contract usage analytics and reports. So over time, we'll start to accumulate data, some history, maybe some specific topics you called in for tech support on. Maybe there's an issue with a certain line that's always showing up. What are the parts that we keep sending back for repair? And from that, we can look at that data and analyze it to see, are there any opportunities for training? Is there a skills gap here? Is there a specific line or maybe group of products that's showing or failing more often than others? It's just another way to dig into the data and see how we can maybe reduce any of those downtime events that you saw. The middle tier, the next step up, is called Enhanced and comes with all of the essential entitlements that we just spoke about, with a few improvements and additions. So first off, your annual repair agreement will move from a bank of funds to complete coverage of your Rockwell installed base. What this means is that if you have an active Rockwell product at your facility and it fails, you do not pay any more to have that part replaced. So I just want to repeat that because it's a very powerful entitlement. With the ISA Enhanced tier, any active Rockwell product that fails will be replaced at no additional charge. This simplifies budgeting and eliminates the possibility of large surprise expenditures of expensive replacement hardware. Field services is a new service at this tier, and we start with a 40-hour block of time for you to use throughout the year. This block of time can be used to dispatch a Rockwell field service tech to do anything from troubleshooting your system, emergency services, drive maintenance, preventative maintenance, programming, startup, and more. If you need more than those 40 base hours a year, we can increase that to whatever suits your needs. And finally, an install base evaluation comes with this enhanced tier. And I mentioned this briefly earlier, but the IBE is where we catalog all of your install base and storeroom, analyze the parts, and provide you with a detailed listing of what each asset is, its current life cycle status, such as active, obsolete, active, mature. And then we compare what is on your plant floor to what you have in your storeroom for critical spares. I can tell you we always find two things with this IBE when we look at the storeroom. One is excess inventory, whether it's too many of an item you have on the shelf that's supporting something on the plant floor, or something you have on your shelf in the storeroom that's no longer on the plant floor. Think about when you decommission a machine, or maybe you upgrade some legacy hardware. Do you go back into the storeroom and relieve that spare part from inventory to get rid of it? We see a lot of times that no, our customers do not. And then the second thing we find when we do this IBE and look at the storeroom is a critical spares gap. And there's always a gap that we find between what we recommend for spares to make sure you don't have any downtime to what you actually have. And in a few slides here, we'll actually see a real customer and what they have for their spare parts gap. And the top tier of this ISA is called Premier, and it's the most comprehensive support agreement we offer. It includes all the entitlements from the enhanced tier with a few modifications and additions. The annual repair agreement is upgraded again so that it not only covers replacement of your active Rockwell hardware, but also guarantees it will be in the exchange hub, which means you will receive it the next business day. Just think about, what that would do to your spares inventory if you knew a replacement was just 1 day away, guaranteed for any failed Rockwell active part. Field services now includes free emergency call-out services. What this means is that if you call into tech support for an emergency and cannot solve it over the phone, a field service tech will be dispatched to your facility to troubleshoot further, and their time will not draw down from that field service bank of hours. Your installed base evaluation now includes an asset optimization consultation, where a reliability engineer will meet with you to develop an asset optimization plan based on your specific company and departmental goals. So here are just a few outcomes and questions we can answer with that asset optimization consultation. Help me understand what I have, which is really the foundation of the lifecycle services management program. We need to know, where you're at, what you have, what's on the plant floor, what's in the storeroom. Do I have the right parts? And that aims to decrease unplanned downtime. Help me find hidden productivity, which finds cost reduction and increased asset reliability. Help me prioritize and acquire CapEx spend, which will give you a roadmap of modernization spending based on business impact. And then finally, what other asset reliability opportunities do I have at my facility? So where else can we optimize with maybe infrastructure or safety, maybe competency, maintenance, etc. With the Premier ISA, you receive preventative maintenance services, which are for 2 days, 2 times a year. A field service tech will come on site to review the health of your Rockwell installed base and look for optimization and system improvements. Finally, you will now have a dedicated Rockwell customer success manager who will meet with you at least every quarter to ensure you understand your entitlements, as well as ensure you are making the most out of your investment in the ISA. So I'll just pause here. I went through all of the different tiers, and I'll take a look at the chat, see if we have any questions. And if you do have a question and want to speak up, feel free to unmute yourself. I'll just give a few seconds and see if we have any questions. All right, I'll continue on here. I don't see any coming into the chat. So we're going to take a quick look at the value you can expect out of the ISA and maybe how to justify a return on the investment into this agreement. And I really like this iceberg infographic as it's a great depiction of what you see on the surface of the ISA and then the value of what's hiding below the surface that may not be seen right away, but you'll certainly feel that eventually when you need to use this contract. Very shortly, I'll go through a real world scenario of a HESCO customer with an ISA contract and show you how powerful and valuable it was for them. Some people may only see the cost of the contract, but the first time you need to use it to recover from a downtime event, you can then fully appreciate the below the surface value it can bring to you. In this slide, we compare on the left a reactive maintenance and support program to a proactive program like the ISA on the right-hand side and the costs associated with those different programs and approaches. The reactive program in blue invests in a Rockwell Tech Connect remote support contract, so that stays constant year over year in that dark blue segment at the bottom. Where we start to see variability is when we have unexpected repairs of critical assets. So, did you expect that $40,000 drive to fail or that $10,000 legacy PLC? And what can add to the pain is if you don't have anyone in-house that can troubleshoot and recover from these failures. So now you've got to call in some field labor to troubleshoot, maybe remove and install the new hardware. And this reactive program is, not predictable. You can see it's up and down. And, one year you might be at or below your predicted budget, but more often than not, you're probably over your budget. And then the question becomes how much over budget? So with the ISA kind of shifting over into the right portion of the slide, we can remove that variability seen in the reactive approach and make your maintenance spend predictable and more cost effective. We give you the tools and resources to avoid failures through stuff like preventative maintenance. And if one does occur, we may be able to solve it over the phone with tech support. If we can't, if we know that the hardware is bad, we'll send out a replacement part to you. If you don't have the skills in-house to perform that replacement work, then we'll dispatch a field service tech to do that for you. All of this is one flat, predictable monthly charge staying within your yearly budget. So I'm excited about this part of the webinar as I get to talk about this firsthand experience I had with a new ISA customer facing a critical part failure. So we've got a customer, they are a dairy producer, and they've got just under $1 million of Rockwell installed base. And just a caveat here, your middle, enhanced, and top premier tier are based on your value of installed base. So this is just kind of giving you a reference point. And they had an astute maintenance manager that really recognized the need for some additional support with that Rockwell hardware. One reason is that they have so much legacy hardware that they knew they could not get any spares if one were to go down. So they wanted to investigate, how to support that old hardware while they plan a modernization project. The obsolescence of the hardware was a big concern, but so was the fact that they didn't have many resources, really, if any, internally who could properly troubleshoot all of the different Rockwell platforms, different Rockwell product families, etc. So I presented the ISA to them, and they locked on to the premier level, the top tier, which has the most support and most entitlements. The maintenance manager told me he had some difficulty making the leadership team understand they needed this support contract. It was a big investment for them, for sure. More than what we had done with them over the past handful of years. But ultimately, he got the approval to move forward with it. And 3 weeks after they signed the agreement, I get a call from the maintenance manager saying that their PowerFlex 700 drive just went down in the middle of a culinary cream production run. And they need to fix the issue quick. About 48 hours is the timeline that they gave us, or else the cream that they were in the middle of producing is going to spoil and they would need to throw it away. The customer had already called tech support and they confirmed the drive had failed, so we knew the part was bad. So with one call, I had a replacement drive sent to the customer for delivery the next day. And then in that same call, I scheduled a field service engineer to meet the drive at the customer's site so that engineer could remove the failed unit, install the new one, and get production back up and running. So the customer tells me the drive arrived the next morning, and about an hour later, the engineer showed up. And about a few hours after that, the bad drive was removed, the good drive was installed, was started up, and production was running once again, and they didn't have to throw out that batch of culinary cream. So why I like the story is the powerful part of the story for me is that had that ISA not been in place, the customer would probably have had to thrown out that cream batch, which would have cost them around $75,000 to reproduce. And that avoided scrap cost was more than the cost of their 1 year of ISA support at that premier level. So the maintenance manager is now the hero of the day for convincing leadership to move forward with the ISA, as this production run was for one of their largest high-profile customers. So, in addition to that, getting production up and running and really supporting that hardware, we also went through an installed base evaluation in IBE. And after we did that, we were able to identify $200,000 in excess and inactive spares in the customer storeroom. And that accounted for about half of their overall spares inventory. We also uncovered a critical spares gap of $341,000 in which they were lacking critical spares on the shelf to support hardware in their facility. And the thing about that spares gap is the majority of that $341,000 was they had zero spares. Not that they just didn't have enough, they didn't have any spares. So we're working on a plan now to get those spares into their facility, where they don't have to pay that large upfront cost. They can kind of pay this small access fee over time. It's called a parts management agreement. So wrapping up here, what's next? If the ISA sounds like it could be helpful for you and your organization, on the next page here, we'll have some information on how to reach out to us and contact us to get some more info on the ISA, maybe discuss it a little bit further, see if it's the right fit for you. And here we have our email addresses for Shelby or myself. Feel free to reach out to either one of us or both of us, and we'd be happy to discuss your specific needs, your goals, and your situation, and talk a little bit more about the ISA and see if it's the right fit for you. And these agreements are really easy to quote. So it's not something that's going to take us weeks and weeks and weeks to give you kind of a budgetary number. We, with the middle and top tiers, we really base it off of the value of your installed base. That's how we put these proposals together. So the message is these are quick to quote, quick to get back to you. And just a note before we wrap up here, we'll be sending a message out to everybody that's registered, and we'll send you a link of this recording so you'll have it. You can access it any time. That'll be through YouTube, and then a copy of this slideshow as well. So just keep an eye out for that. And to end the slideshow here, I really wanted to thank everybody for taking the time out of your day to learn a little more about the integrated service agreement and how it might assist with supporting your Rockwell installed base. So I'll pause here to see if we have any questions in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question. I'll hang around for a minute or so to see if we have any questions, and if not, then thank you again for attending and really appreciate the time.